I'm Chaplain Sharon, a chaplain at county and state facilities. A few years ago, I was walking the rows in a high security area at a county jail, offering Christian Science literature to the men and sharing a little bit about the teachings of Christian Science. I mentioned that Christian Science is based on the Bible and the teachings of Christ Jesus. I spoke about Genesis 1:27 and 31 in the Bible. God created man in his own image, and that God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. I said, so man is not born of the dust of the ground, born of Adam, but born of God, Spirit. Therefore, man is not born of the dust of the ground, not born in sin, and has no free will, no choice, but to be what God made him to be, all good. By the time I got to a young man's cell, he'd heard these comments quite a few times and was waiting at his jail cell door for me, totally in agreement with what he heard me say. He wasn't a Christian Scientist, but he was a thinker. He took all the literature and then asked me several more questions. The answers he agreed with and asked me to come and see him every week. The following week, I gave him a copy of the Christian Science textbook, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, written by the discoverer and founder of Christian Science, Mary Baker Eddy. About 6 months later, he told me he had written a letter to the Christian Science Publishing Society, expressing his gratitude for the periodicals and learning about Christian Science. He shared a copy of the letter with me. The letter was handwritten in pencil and was 3 pages long. In the second paragraph, he writes, Christian Science and Mary Baker Eddy's writings filled a void, thus completing something I never knew was missing. Most of us learn our beliefs before we're even able to evaluate them, he continued. He later writes, there was simply an understanding. It's a part of me. Honestly, I feel as if I'm in love. He meant in love with the truth. I can't explain it. It's unexplainable. He concludes the letter with this statement from Prose Works by Mary Baker Eddy from her book, Unity of Good. An acknowledgement of the perfection of the infinite unseen confers a power nothing else can. An incontestable point in divine science is that because God is all, a realization of this fact dispels even the sense or consciousness of sin and brings us nearer to God, bringing out the highest phenomena of the all mind, end quote. A few months later, he asked to join the Mother Church, and I went to the watch commander and was able to provide him with the application and all the information that he needed. During this time, he was on the jail bus one day going to court. While on the jail bus, he started sharing his love for Christian Science with all the other men. He was animated, full of conviction, joy, and commitment to truth. He never told me about this sharing of Christian Science on the bus. So how did I know this? Well, a few weeks later, after his bus experience, I was walking in another high security module offering Christian Science literature to the men. After speaking to and sharing Christian Science with about a dozen men, I came to a young man's cell, and he told me about the man on the bus. He said, if you'd come to my cell a month ago, I wouldn't have accepted any literature or been interested in Christian Science. He accepted a copy of Science and Health, Sentinels, articles, and some other writings from Mrs. Eddy. He started reading Science and Health, later prose works, and looked up passages and statements in the concordances to the Bible and Mrs. Eddy's writings. During the year, he shared several experiences of healing through his study and understanding of Christian Science. He had been diagnosed with bipolarism and took several drugs to minimize the problem. However, this man decided not to take them and threw them in the toilet. Every time he was evaluated, the doctor commented on his improvement until he no longer gave him the drugs. I don't think he ever told the man that he never took the drugs after he found Christian Science. But this man had also been diagnosed with a rare lung disease and had been put on a list for a lung transplant. After reading Science and Health and studying Christian Science, this young man told the doctor to remove his name from the list. The doctor, however, told him to use the respirator in his cell when he needed to, and never to exercise. Frequently, when I went to his cell, he'd be doing push-ups and other exercises with no breathing problems, etc., and said he'd never used the respirator. Now, I wasn't made aware of these problems until some months later when he told me that what he was learning in Christian Science had healed him. Over the 2 years I have met with him, a wonderful transformation has taken place. He's loving, thoughtful, and has this consciousness of God's allness and goodness. Some months ago, I gave him an article from the Christian Science Sentinel, Getting Rid of Caterpillar Thinking. He laughed and said, I know what that article is about. I'm not a caterpillar, a mortal man with a material mind, mean, angry, limited, and so forth. I'm like a butterfly, free, soaring, unlimited, born of God, made in his image and likeness, spiritual, expressing only good.